So I think this is probably going to be one of my favorite features inside of Microsoft Intune, especially as a lazy admin, because I can rely on my partners and other providers to help me basically enable the best user experience for an end user. And what I mean by that is I can directly go to Dell or any other OEM provider, give them my autopilot information, and then they can ship out this device to the end user. And the end user theoretically should just be able to log in and get to work. So it really helps if you're trying to get away from the, you know, manually having to go get a laptop, um, you know, download applications, whatever, any of your images. That's great and all, right? But I think if you don't have to, I think this feature is really good in terms of saving you time, resources, etc. So, and don't get me wrong, there are still times where I've had this enabled, but I have to, by whatever reason, run to the store and replace a laptop or get a loaner to enroll into Windows Autopilot. So I'm not directly shipping it from the OEM provider and letting them, the end user, start right away. So, but enough of that. Let's get to it and let's set up Windows Autopilot so that you can ship your devices directly from your OEM provider to your end users, and then they can get to work. So let's get some time back. How about that? So first, let's take a look at some of the Windows Autopilot requirements. Here, I'm going to go over the software requirements. And this is going to be, and we're going to look at 4 different sections or categories here. The first one's going to be about software, the OS requirements. Let's scroll down here. We want to make sure that in order for us to have Windows Autopilot work correctly, we want to make sure that we have a supported version of Windows that Autopilot adheres to. So in our first couple, they're going to be Windows 11 operating systems. The following Windows 11 versions or editions are supported. So Windows 11 Pro, Windows 11 Education, Windows 11 Pro for workstations, Windows 11 Enterprise, Windows 11 Education, and Windows 11 Enterprise LTSC. And I won't say it again, but essentially it's a copy and paste for Windows 10. So if you have it on Windows 11, those editions should be good to go. So, and another one here is HoloLens that is supported as well for Autopilot. I've only ever met one person who's had a HoloLens setup. So if you do, let me know in the comments. Super curious to see how your company uses it. And now let's take a look at the networking requirements. Honestly, there's going to be a lot of jargon here. But to be honest, to sum it all up, if your Windows device has an internet connection, and also if you aren't blocking any Microsoft services in your firewall, you should be fine. But if you have any more strict or deeper level requirements, take a look at these requirements and see what we have here. So like I mentioned, we want to make sure that device has internet so that it can reach those Microsoft services, because Windows Autopilot is an internet-based service. So, cool. Now let's go take a look at licensing. So here we're going to need to see what kind of license requirements outside of Windows 11 that we need to have in order for us to use Windows Autopilot. Licenses that have Windows Autopilot. So I'll go over them as soon as you hear yours. Check it off so then we can get started. So we have Microsoft 365 Business Premium subscription, Microsoft 365 F1 or F3 subscription, Microsoft 365 Academic A1, A3, and A5, Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 or E3, as well as Enterprise Mobility and Security E3 or E5, Intune for Education, as well as Microsoft's Intra P1 or P2, and Microsoft Intune subscription. So as long as you have some of those, let's get started and look at the configurations. So here, essentially these configurations are telling us, go set this up in Intune and let's fire away. Cool. So let's kind of read over some of them really quick. Before Windows Autopilot can be used, some configuration tasks are required to support the common autopilot scenarios. So here we see that we need to enable Microsoft Entra automatic enrollment. We also want to make sure that we have custom branding. This is not going to be a requirement, but it's going to be nice to have that built into your environment so that your logo and your brand is kind of spread across on your devices. And this is actually going to be pretty nice for some security stuff. For instance, if somebody's getting phished and your Microsoft 365 branding isn't on there, the person can be a little skeptical. So then it looks good. So why not? And some other things are we are going to need to have a device registered with Windows Autopilot. I'll show you a little bit about this later on. And then also we're going to have to set up profile configurations. This is essentially going to be the profile that the device gets when it's enrolled in Autopilot so that it can get its security policies, device settings, etc. So yeah, let's head into Microsoft Intune and take a look. The first one we want to set up here is Windows Automatic Enrollment. So let's take a look at that. We'll want to go to intune.microsoft.com. And once here, we'll go to Devices on the left-hand side. And we'll go to Enrollment under Device Onboarding. So over here, we are going to focus on the Windows section. And over here, we can see a few different options under this tab. For this one, I'm going to look for automatic enrollment. And this is essentially going to help us configure Windows devices to enroll when they join or register with Azure Active Directory. So let's click on that. And here we can see a couple different options. So we want to essentially scope this to all our users who want to register for NDM, or you can also just scope it to some users if you don't want to scope it to everyone. But in my case, I'm just going to scope this to everyone. And I already have that set. So we'll go ahead and go back to home. So we'll want to create a dynamic device group. Honestly, whenever your OEM provider launches the hardware hashed to your Intune tenant, it automatically gets a profile. So you don't have to go add that device manually into a group so that it gets the profile. So let's go over to groups on the left-hand side. We'll do new group. And let's create a security group. And I'm going to name this Windows. We'll do, Windows Autopilot devices. How about that? And you can give your group a description. And in my case, I'm going to use my membership type as dynamic device. So basically what this is doing is setting up this group of some rules in place. If the device is if the devices in our devices section for Windows Autopilot, toss it into this device group. So Microsoft actually does have a Microsoft does have a helpful device group naming convention for us to use. So this is gonna be helpful for us. So anytime a device is added to Windows Autopilot, it gets added to this group automatically. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. And don't worry, I'm gonna leave some of these links inside of the I'm going to leave the links below for you to have for future reference. So we'll go back to Microsoft Intune, into our dynamic membership group. And here, let's go to edit, and let's add this syntax here. We'll do OK. Perfect. We'll click on save. So remember this group next time. This is going to be useful for us when we're creating our profile groups, enrollment status pages, etc. So let's click create. Okay, so now that we have that device group configured, let's go ahead and register a device into Microsoft Intune. Cool. So now that that's set up, let's go ahead and make a Cool. So now that that's set up, let's go ahead and actually get a device into Microsoft Intune in order for us to apply some profiles and apply some other rules to it. Cool. So how do we do that? In my case, I'm going to be using a virtual machine, but you can also use a physical device or any other way. But theoretically, we would want our OEM providers to just toss our device information into Intune. And then our device group that we just created would add those devices into that group. So honestly, right, that's really helpful, but there are going to be times where, you might need to test a device and enroll it to Intune. Or if you're like me, you have a user starting. If you're like me, you have a user starting in 4 days, and you need to have a device out by today. So we might have to go run to the store, wipe the device, and just add the hardware hash manually. So I'm going to show you a really easy way to enroll this device into Microsoft Intune so that we can use Windows Autopilot. This is going to be pretty easy. So all we have to do is click on Control-Shift-F10. Actually, it was Shift, Fn, and F10. So that was helpful for me. So we're going to have to add this. Now we're going to have to use PowerShell. So we'll go ahead and add PowerShell here. Perfect. And here we'll do set execution. Let's see. Execution policy bypass. Perfect. And then we're going to install Windows Autopilot info. All right, I cheated and I want to go find the correct install script. It's late in the day, I'm tired, so I just went ahead and added the correct one, which is install script get Windows Autopilot info. So we'll go ahead and click on that and click enter. 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 There we go. And now we'll get a few different prompts. I'm just going to go yes to all of them. Perfect. Click on continue yes. Yes to all. Perfect. So now we just have one more to run. And this one's going to be get Windows Autopilot info -online. And this is going to import the hardware hash directly from the virtual machine from this experience to Microsoft Intune. We're just going to have to make sure that we have an account with the global admin rights or the necessary permissions. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And this is useful too. I mean, I've done this in the past where, like I mentioned, if I had to run and grab a new device to get out as a loaner, just needed to add the device myself to Intune using this script. So we'll let that run, do its course. Cool. So while that's running, we actually get a prompt from Microsoft to log in. So here, as I mentioned, you want to use an account that has the appropriate permissions. Here, I'm just going to log in with my account. And that's the first time I've seen that before. So let's go ahead and click yes. What that? And then I'll do use an app instead. And we'll do the MFA. We'll log in. Perfect. So now we're just basically syncing this device over to Microsoft Intune. So we'll let that run and we'll just take a look at the serial number to cross-reference in Intune. So it'll end in 3839. Perfect. So let's go head over to Microsoft Intune and we'll want to go to the devices section, go to enrollment, and we'll scroll down to devices. Here, we don't see anything just yet. So, and I just want to mention too here, in some cases, if you are directly on a device, maybe you're, maybe you're in a on-prem environment or whatever, and you want to manually upload the hardware hash using Intune, we can use this import section here, and you can use one of the PowerShell scripts recommended by Microsoft Intune to grab that. You could add it in here, grab a CS file, and import it. So just wanted to mention that. So we'll give us a refresh. That's cool. So I let that run for a little bit. Didn't take too long. But as we can see, we do have one device imported successfully. So let's go back to Microsoft Intune and take a look. So we'll minimize that and do a refresh. Boom, here we go. So we got the virtual machine inside of Microsoft Intune, and we know it's the one that we have because it's ending in 3839. So now we're good to go, right? No, not exactly. So now there are a few different things that we have to do. I'd say one is required and two are nice to haves. The required one is to set up to set up a profile for this. So I'll go over that, and then other nice to haves, which I will cover, are the enrollment status page. It's going to show essentially the user what's going on, some of the progress as they're getting logged into the device. And then the third one is the company branding. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be nice, kind of pretty logo, company trust. So let's go over the required. Let's go and create a Autopilot profile so that this device can grab that and we can get assignments of like user permission accounts, etc. Well, enough of that. Let's go back to it. So let's go over to devices. We'll go to enrollment. And down here, let's go to deployment profiles. As we can see, it's going to customize the Windows Autopilot provisioning experience. So we'll go there, and here we'll create a new profile for a Windows PC. Here I'm going to let's do a standard out-of-box experience profile. And here, do we want to convert all targeted devices to Autopilot? If you have a ton of devices in your devices section in the enrollment page and you want to convert them all to Windows Autopilot, go ahead. This might be helpful in the future if that device is needing to be wiped. It can just reload the Autopilot profile. But in my case, I'm just going to set this to no. So here's some of the cool stuff we see. So for deployment mode, we have user-driven or self-deploying. Here, we're just going to do user-driven. And here, and next, we see join to Microsoft Entra ID as Microsoft Entra joined or Microsoft Entra hybrid joined. In my case, I just really want to focus on the Microsoft Entra joined option. Here, do we want to show the Microsoft license terms? Really, if you're an end user, and no offense to my end users, we really want to hide as much as we can. just because we want to make sure that it's essentially a useless, or because we want to make sure that it's a seamless and easy experience for the end user. So they essentially just want to get to work. So let's do hide here for the license terms. We'll also hide the privacy settings. And also we're going to hide any change account options. And here's really the more so important stuff. You know, especially as we want to go towards a more zero trust and try to be more proactive on security, to avoid any incidents. In my case here, I'm going to do my user accounts to standard, because as we know, it's easier to have users not have elevated permissions, and it's pretty hard to take away admin rights from a user once they're already used to it. So let's go ahead and keep that as standard. And are we going to allow pre-provisioned deployments? This essentially is going to let you, get the device ready before it gets to the end user. I could see this being useful in both ways, yes and no. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as no. For the language region, I'm going to set this to the operating system default. Do we want to automatically configure a keyboard? Yes. And do you want to apply a name template? By default, I believe it's desktop and some serial and some scrambled numbers. If your company really wants to set up your own naming template, feel free to do it. I'm a lazy admin, so I'm just going to leave it to no. And here's going to be where we're going to add that Autopilot devices dynamic group we created earlier. So any device that falls into that group is going to be applied this Autopilot profile. So here we'll just do add groups, and we'll do Autopilot to search for that group. And we'll add the Windows Autopilot devices. And you can add all devices, section it out by other groups. But just to streamline this, I'm going to keep it simple and set it to Windows Autopilot devices. So we'll click Next and Create. So now, theoretically, that virtual machine that we created should get that standard OOBE profile. So let's go back to devices and run a quick sync. So here we'll give this a refresh, and we'll let this run in the background. We'll let that device get that profile. It should go from not assigned to pending to assigned. So now let's go over to the enrollment status page. So we'll go to devices, enrollment, and we'll scroll down to enrollment status page. So by default, we have a profile set up, or we have a status page for all users and devices, but it's set up to not be shown. So let's take a look at what happens when we click on yes. So we get a few different options, and I would say this has been useful for us, because it gives us a time limit to see, hey, if this device takes more than an hour, there's obviously something wrong with the device, or we have too many apps applied to it, or somebody's network is super slow. So, 60 is a good to start out with. So, and show custom message when the time limit occurs. So if the person hits the 60, we can show them this message. And let's take a look at some of the other options. Turn on log collection and diagnostics page for end users. Yes, we can leave that enabled, and only show page to devices provisioned by out-of-box experience. You can also set that to yes. And do we want to block the device use until all apps and profiles are assigned? Essentially, if you have a critical application that you want to get on there and other settings, I think this might be really useful for you to enable as yes. It could be maybe the company portal or Office 365. So I'll leave this up to you, but in my case, I'm going to leave this to yes because I'll assign an application to this. And do we want to allow users to reset device if installation error occurs? We'll leave this to no. We'll leave it to the admin to do more troubleshooting here? And do we want to allow users to use device? Do we want to allow users to use the device if installation error occurs? I'm also going to leave this to no, because if we do have some critical applications or settings that we want on that device, we don't want to have that device be non-compliant or have the appropriate settings. We want to make sure that it's correct from the get-go. So now let's take a look. Block device use until required apps are installed if they are assigned to the user device. So here, I'm going to select selected. Here we can kind of really select the applications that we want to install before the user can move forward. So let's select apps. And I only have one application here, which is Company Portal. So you can use other applications that you're using in your company that you really want to make sure that is on the device before the user gets started. So whatever that application is, you know your environment better than I do. And this would be a good place for you to team up, circle up with your team and be like, what do we really need for our end users to use from the get-go? Because usually people can wait for like Slack, Google, as long as we have it set to required as an application, it should come down within a few minutes of the device provisioning. But in this case, my device cannot move forward if Company Portal is not on there. So we'll do select, review, and save. So I know I'm taking up some time, but let's go to the company branding. And this is actually going to be on portal.azure.com. And this is just going to be just something that's nice to have, easy to look to. So we'll go to Microsoft Intune ID and we'll drop these down. And let's take a look at company branding on the left-hand side over here. I do have some stuff already pre-filled. So let's go in here and click edit. As we can see, my favicon, I believe how it's said, has this little icon here. My background image when somebody goes to log in to Microsoft from our domain is going to see this. And also have my background color as that. And we can see that some of the visual templates, when a person goes to log in, they get the Microsoft login page right in the center versus the side. And yeah, we can see some other cool stuff. We'll go to header. I don't have a header logo. I don't have a footer information. So a lot of this is really nice to see. And I have the Netflix logos. Netflix, don't sue me, I'm sorry. But they're just there as examples to see. So yeah, we'll go and back out of there. And let's head over to our device to see if that profile was already assigned. So we'll go back to devices, enrollment, devices. And as I mentioned, the device was going to be going from not assigned, pending to assigned. So it was a quick sync. It probably going to fail. I'm being too pushy. So cat one synced less than 10 minutes ago. So that's all right. We'll give it a refresh. And I'll pause it here so you don't have to wait. And once it's assigned, we'll get to work. Cool. So thanks for waiting with me. Now that this profile status is assigned, we should now have that autopilot profile set up for that virtual machine. So let's go back to our virtual machine. Here, I'm going to click this and I'm going to give it a reboot just to make sure that we are finding that profile. All right. Now that we have this login prompt, we can go ahead and log in with our user's email. Go ahead and accept your prompts. I highly recommend to set up passwordless sign in with your phone. I'll get that out in the next video. How about that? So we'll let this spin up while we wait for this device. Yeah, so far what we've done is we set up our Windows automatic Intune enrollment. Back to this, sorry. I'll go over that later. So here we can see our enrollment status page. As I mentioned, this is going to show us the progress that's going on as the user is getting logged into their computer. We can see, hey, my device is being prepared. You can see the device setup, things such as security policies, certificates, network connections, etc., and applications. And then we can see other things such as joining your organization's network, security policies, certificates, etc. So we'll let that run. And let's open this one. Let's see what's going on here. We can see they're securing our hardware. Thank you. Thank you so much. They're joining our organization's network. I appreciate it. Registering for mobile management. Thanks. Prepping it. Thank you. Yeah, so in my environment, I didn't have too many policies and things set up, so this should be fairly quickly. But I just did want to mention in the app section, we should see a 0 out of 1 kind of reference, because remember, we did set up that company portal application to install before we can move forward. So hopefully we can see that. And as this is going, I did also want to mention something to be wary about or know about with Autopilot. Since you are relying on your OEM provider to register your devices to your Intune tenant, sometimes I could go wrong. I'll tell you why. Say you purchase a device from your OEM provider, Dell, HP, or whoever, and you get shipped to you. And when you go log into the computer, it says this device belongs to X company, because when you're logging in, you get their logo, you get their icons. So just know that you might run into an issue where an end user gets a device and it's not registered to your tenant. So what you have to do in that case, what I did was reach out to Microsoft Intune or Microsoft support, submit your request there, like, hey, this device is not registered in my tenant. They'll be able to help you. I hope so. They were able to help me because we had the order confirmation and receipts that the device was actually ours. I know some people just say return it to Dell or HP and go through that process again, but just want to let you know about that. So just waiting on this. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. And then also, I would probably not put too many applications on the block list where the user can't move forward. I would say put the most required apps there, things like maybe Outlook or a company portal. But besides that, I think the users could wait a little bit for other applications to fall through. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a balance between of getting things on there, but also user experience. Let me know what you think about that. So cool. Let this run. Hey, what's up, Windows? So polite. Thank you. So might take a few minutes. That's all right. I actually didn't get that application on there. So we'll see what's going on. While that's doing its thing, I'm gonna go take a look at our enrollment status page to see if we even assigned it to us. Enrollment on the status page, all users, properties, yes. Huh. Okay. That is a little weird. Maybe was a timing an issue with Microsoft, or maybe it was a timing issue with my device not getting that. So, but theoretically, we should see that come through. I'll make a video on I'll make a video, especially going over that portion. So, sorry about that. Actually, here we go. I spoke too soon. We have it here where we have apps 0 of 1 installed. So that should be our company portal application. So thank you, everyone. Cool. We have apps 1 of 1 installed. So once we fire up the device, hopefully we get company portal right away. So here we do see the Windows Hello setup that is required for us. This is actually really nice. Gonna save your end users some hassle of having to put in their strong passwords. So we'll click OK. I will set up a pin, and I believe this pin digit number it's got to be 6 digits. So let's take a look. Perfect. We're all set. Oh, let's take a look if company portal's there. So we'll type in company. Oh, how about that? So we'll click on there. We'll give this device a quick sync from here. And let me know, are you team light mode, team dark mode? I like dark mode. It's kind of nice for the eyes. So we'll go to settings and throw quick sync. So, but yeah, voila, this device is now enrolled into Intune, and you did it with Windows Autopilot. So congratulations, handing it back to you. Let's go verify inside of Microsoft Intune. So go back to Microsoft Intune. We'll go to devices. We'll click on the Windows pane. And here I have the Windows VM 01. So boom, voila, 3839. Thanks everybody for joining me. So we set up Windows Automatic Intune Enrollment. We registered a device into Autopilot. We created a device group, a dynamic device group. So whenever anybody when a OEM provider throws the hardware hash into your tenant, they automatically get added to that Autopilot device group. We also configured an Autopilot enrollment status page, and we also created Autopilot profiles. And lastly, we deployed that device and we made it go through the gauntlet of the configuration profile, enrollment status page, and it grabbed that company portal application. So now, we can explore some other things with this device. But I'm just wanted to get this video out to you to show us, how do we use Windows Autopilot to leverage some of these things, so that it makes it easier on our lives as IT professionals and also the end users so they can get to work. So let me know if I missed anything in the video, if I said anything wrong or anything didn't make sense. Let me know. I'm here to help. So thanks. I'm actually just starting this channel, so let's blow it up. let's put some likes behind it, and let's subscribe. So thank you all for joining.